Namaskar, good morning from North America, and good evening to all the viewers and my beloved community members back home in India. I welcome you once again to the yet another episode of the Homeland podcast, season 1. Today I have a very special guest with me, and let me welcome him. Namaskar, Mara, Mr. Sunil ji. Sunil ji,
Namaskar, namaskar, Mara, namaskar. Namaskar, Sarnin. Thank you.
let me briefly introduce Sunil ji has done his MBBS from GMC Srinagar and he has done his further studies from GMC Jabalpur. He has also served as registrar orthopedics at Jammu Medical College. Currently, he is working as an orthopedic specialist in South Africa. He is also fellow of Royal College of Surgeons in South Africa. The list is long and he has many laurels and accolades to his name. So, without wasting any time, let me welcome again, sir.
Namaskar, Mara. Thank you,
Namaskar,
Mara.
namaskar.
Thank you.
And I want to start today, Sunil ji. I want to start this interaction with you uh, because this is an age of narratives we live in. We have
Absolutely, absolutely.
we don't have we don't have bombs, bullets, or swords flying.
Mm,
You know the way the narratives fly. The
mhm.
age of narratives we live in.
Yeah,
Atman, what is important to understand that as a community that is itself the victim of genocide, to use the
mm,
right terminologies, right diction, right vocabulary. Yamsa is वनान कि इस पाने वनान कि नम तस्मस गई migration. That is the biggest disservice to our own selves. Rather than using the word genocide, she use kara word migration. And then we say this thing that from last
yeah,
100 years we as a community has been facing the genocide, and not only just the genocide, we have also been facing the denial, obviously from the perpetrator, because perpetrator will never owe the crime they have done, but then also the state has also denied our genocide. The Yimarash bad important banan atmas, it becomes, I mean, not only important, imperative, indispensable, it becomes actually non-negotiable. कि we should be using the right diction. The Atma,
absolutely.
की सवाल था इसी तुम्हारा, how important is this for us to bust this false narrative? Let us say the perpetrator has been using narrative of like the false Jagmohan theory or the word migration we use ourselves. So how
Absolutely.
important, Vaikya Shubhasa Sunilji, how important is it for us to use the right diction for our own genocide?
You see, I think one thing is very important. We have to understand this thing. You see, the whole government, media, and all the economists, all they are actually evil. They have been backed by evil, and this works. This works against us because this is an ecosystem which is controlled by the leftist cabal
Right.
mostly, and they have a strange desire to be seen as the messiah of voiceless, but in reality it's completely opposite to that.
Right.
Do you agree with that? so so
Uh,
so what has happened over the years, you see, if you look at because you see we have actually genocide uh, denied
mhm.
means that you will have a repetition of such
Right.
genocides. We can see what is happening in rest of Bharat.
Right.
We can see what is happening in Bengal. We can see what is happening in Kerala. We can see what is happening in the border states.
Exactly.
But you know how it happened. You see, we have been continuously denying genocide. If you look at Mirpur massacre, for example, when they annihilated about 30, 40,000 Hindus and Sikhs, when pregnant women jumped into Kishanganga River, and they even changed the name of the rivers. Now it is Neelam Valley or something, some nonsense. But what I'm trying to say is, it was a Kishanganga River. It was a Kishanganga Valley. So kind of thing, we denied that,
We denied.
uh, and it got repeated in 1990 in our lifetime. How we have seen this, and this is what is going to happen if people continue to deny such genocides. And I squarely blame our politics and our politicians who have been suicidally naive in whatever they have done. You see, it's so shameful. Sometimes Jawaharlal Nehru, when he gained, uh, he was the first elected prime minister, by the way.
Yeah,
And so it was simply a transfer of power, and
correct.
and it, in fact, it was a new scheme of enslavement of Hindus. You see,
Very good. Right.
so you cannot bring equality
Mhm.
on the basis of reverse inequality.
On the basis of reverse. Well, that's a very good point.
That's important. You cannot.
Good point.
I cannot say that we are all equal, but some are more equal than other equals.
Other equal.
So
Yeah,
this is what leftists actually means. This is the kind of philosophy they follow. They want to look like as if they are the big masihas and things like that. So we have always had this degenerated mindset kind of thing, and this is what Nehru did, actually, to be
right.
honest. And you'll be shocked. Ambedkar, on record in 1955 in BBC. He would never call Gandhi Gandhiji. Even I don't call him. I call him MKG anyway. So the reason is he was a stooge by the Winston Churchill. He was a stooge of Winston Churchill.
And I
I know
appreciate
it.
you
I
have
know it
said it.
because of his South African lineage. If you look at how he had, what affair he had with that bodybuilder or that wrestler or whatever that guy was.
Right.
Besides that, what I'm trying to say is that
Mhm.
he came from London straight to South Africa, and in South Africa he stayed for 20 years.
Mhm.
After staying in South Africa for 20 years, he goes back to London. He doesn't touch Bharat
Yes, and
in
yes.
the process. He goes back from Cape Town. He takes a ship, and goes direct to London, and then stays there for 3-4 months, and then he's parachuted. This
That's true.
half-naked man is parachuted on Bharat,
Correct.
and this is what happened exactly. So vannas khatru chu wariya karo kya magar, but this is our ordeal.
Mhm.
So let's come to the point. Is in in our case in 1989-90, the place where I used to live. Uh, by the way, I never went back after that. I've never gone back, despite the fact that I lived for 7-8 years in Jammu, but I never went back.
You never go.
I never went to the valley. Never, ever. So
You were talking of Mohandas Gandhi, and the most absurd thing that I have ever come across is I read somewhere that Mr. Gandhi said the only the ray of hope he sees is in Kashmir, where the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits was brutally and gruesomely taking place for the last 700 years. So what kind of
I
that
mean,
hope is there?
look at. I mean, you correctly pointed out. This narrative building. Look at, for example, what the kind of narrative they have been building for so many years,
Right.
and nobody busted this narrative.
Correct.
They've been calling Azad Kashmir, Azad Kashmir. There's no Azad Kashmir.
There's no other.
The whole of Kashmir lies with India. There's
Right.
only small bit of Kashmir which lies with Pakistan
Correct.
through, if you go through Kupwara T12,
Mhm.
T12 side, where they have now built a new Sharda temple, and
Perfect.
that across the Kishan Ganga River, there is a small amount of Muzaffarabad. That is the only part of Kashmir, which is a very small part of the Pakistan occupied, which they call Kashmir, is basically a Jammu land.
It's a Jammu land. Yeah.
Bimbar, Kotli, Bagh. These are all Jammu
Nobody,
land.
nobody actually speaks Kashmiri there.
Yeah, I'll tell you some shocking things about that.
Yeah.
The food
Right.
does not coincide with
Really.
with Kashmiri food.
Right.
Their social structure does not coincide with Kashmiris. Their culture does not
The language.
compare. And the worst is the language. Language is spoken in just 10% of the people speak Kashmiri, which is in Muzaffarabad. That's the only part. Rest, the whole of them is are Dogras. They are the converted Hindus and Sikhs of those days. Some of them, and the rest of them had been killed.
Right.
So this is what I wanted to say. We were talking about what happened in 1989, 1990. You know, 1989, 90, 88, actually, 88, 89, 90s. They were very bad days for Hindus. You know, we have in Kashmir, and in during that time, about 5 of the people got shot in our area. In my neighborhood, we had businesses there. So 5 of the people got shot. One was Akos Nathji, was Biakos Shamlal Bhat.
Exactly. Kath Jai Hans Kath Chute Karan Kashir Kus.
I'm talking about Hari Singh High Street.
Hari Singh Has.
Biakos Kapoor Photo Studio was Kapoor Akos back in Akos Beos, Nathji was Shamji was Shamlalji was Beos, man, Damodar. But surprisingly, the Beos last was by Krishan Lal Da as Hamsai. So, Yeltems Krishan Lalji is Google Laga, so Temis is Google Zangan, don't the Beos Temis so Saman on Kana, Tim I that Sam that Takastim so it hit that cheese baron. So he got saved somehow, but he is limping till date. Limping. After that, what happened is, unfortunately, क्या was गमुतन कि time was my father had gone for I belong to business class, so business people.
Right.
So we had ancestral business. So my father had gone somewhere far off to collect.
You mean outside?
No, outside Srinagar city to some village to collect money. I think I don't remember if my sister was there or not, but my mother was there, and Yimokar Yim Krishnalalji and Yimokar good. To Bonuk Asti. Since I was young and I was scared, you know what happened in when they proclaimed from mosques and everything. It was around that time. So I was really, really scared. The bosses when Pandashura Uros, Jawan Ladkosus. I insisted that we leave. I told my mother, no, well, let's leave the father here. Let's get out. Because I remember you go.
You witnessed 5 killings, so you thought it's wise to.
No, they all survived. They all survived. All of the 5 survived, but they were shot. They were shot. They were shot. Yes. So what happened is कि यम सातन यम चीज गई. So it really, you should look at the people don't fathom when you are in an abject minority, what happens to the whole minority when you do things like this.
Right.
Do you understand, the psychology at that point of time? So I used to lock, I think my mother and my sister, and I was under lockwood coat, underim lockwood coat. So it was bathroom actually. Bathroom was lock around board lock. Pan was behind. Never can veranda sitting. Don't shong mat ki was tabaratas get don't.
Right.
So the psychology I'm talking about, this is something which, unfortunately, even some of the Kashmiri Pandits, who had an elite way of living or had so-called elites, never thought what happens to the common people, what happened to the business people, what happened to the people in the villages. They never thought. even today they don't fathom that trauma
Right.
which we had during that time. And they're busy speaking English, talking English, all this nonsense, So this is what is our tragedy,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
And because they still want to give that Western these people the premise, okay, that this
Right.
nothing has happened. We believe in that secular kind of thing.
Kind of a narrative. Yes.
Yeah. So we left. I think it was middle of the night at around 1:30 a.m. I remember it.
Right.
I left with my mom. We took a little bit of gold, whichever we had. Aspanayu kachan tim chand.
Also, that.
That was the Baki. Uh, I can tell you one thing very honestly, Himalay. I have been to the length and most of the parts of the world. I am yet to see a house like ours in any part of the world.
My
I'm
God.
yet to see a house. I'm telling you one thing very honestly. Every knob was brass, and every knob was made in England. Every window pane in my house was made in Belgium. Every window pane. Okay, Beosas Kutubantala, Wes Punsakamra, 25 rooms
It's a huge
we had.
mention. Huge.
Now, let me tell you, to your surprise, it was one of the palaces of Maharaja Hari Singh. Okay, Sanglato said, Atos Underkin, as one of that Lockwood Court, Atos Underkin was that Pawar, Sukurai Bandavante, was one bag, as was but Bona Ostad, Bagwant.
Right.
Magar, what I wanted to tell you is that we left everything there, everything. In fact, also ak Bhopal koi Musalman tha nasan Jalil ak Ahmados. So was Don variant sign gari. Besides taking the cash, Mano sofa so not yatn ak that sofa we did not had to put any nail or screw.
Okay.
Sofa was made without nails and screws. So he stayed in our house. He used one of our rooms. He lived with us for 2 years.
Right.
And when it got ready by 1989, we had brought a painter from Kerala. Kerala Petos painter. Akso Temkorsari wall paint. That was Ostem Homat Amarnath Bey Shankracharya.
You're talking of 1990, right?
Yes. So the painter was also living with us, who had painted this on the whole wall. The whole wall was painted,
Right.
and in that walls, so says drawing room. That also told that we had a Persian carpet. That was I always did say that because I last get down but we didn't sell it. So what I'm trying to say is that this is what it was when we left.
Right.
We didn't bring anything, and we never went back. So the idea to tell you this thing is the psychological trauma we had at that. My father was not there. We did not wait for my father also, and we ran 1:30 took the bus. So without knowing where we have to go, once you Jum also my masi used to live in Jammu.
Right.
She had a house there, and if you remember 1986, there were riots in Anantnag. You see, my Matamal belongs to Anantnag district. That is really Danvit be Kanbal be Anantnag. That is really Batamakan Waria. They looted and gutted a lot of Kashmiri houses. So at that point of time, because my Matamal was there, my mamas lived that side, so they had built a house in Jammu.
Right.
So we went running. Then my mother was worried about my father. So in 2-3 days' time, when my father reached house, so he was shocked that he did not find us there.
Right.
So he I think at that point of time, my Mamaji called him.
Mhm.
My Mamaji called him, and we didn't have mobile phone, so we had the phone. So my Mamaji called him and told him, listen, if you don't reach by today evening,
Correct.
so we are heading to Chandigarh.
Okay. Mhm.
So, and he dropped the phone. My father thought probably, hey, Mehmashukumut accident. So he thought that they are going to PGI Chandigarh.
Correct. Correct.
So my son has got an accident. So what he does is, he says, when I'll have to come back, so what will I do? So he keeps 10,000 rupees in one of his jacket pocket, calls my friend,
Right.
Muslim friend, Idris Raja, Raja, gas cylinder and leaves, goes to the airport, buys the ticket, whatever it is, because he is worried that I got an accident.
Accident. Yeah.
I got an accident.
Misunderstood it. Right. Yeah.
So when he reaches home, he's like, Patro, which is
Oh, yeah. Bilkul.
my mother said, no, we don't gonna let you go now. So he said, what is wrong with you guys? What have you done?
Mm.
Which was actually a wrong thing to do at that point of time, but anyway, that's the fact of the matter, and this is what happened to us. So when I talked to my father, Ashwas Gudam was gari tina amrakal tos Gudam beos
Right.
dukan was I say dukanas tos Gudam. So my father says कि कम से कम ऐसे 300 लक्षन hund गुदामस मंज घर किस गुदामस मंज माल
Mhm.
कम से कम 5-7 लाख 7 लक्षन ऐसे दुकान किस गुदामस पे कस गई issues I'm talking about 90 शुना बेचु ट्रांसपोर्टस मंज माल
Right.
1 crore 5 लाख किन कोता छु मार्केटस मंज पंस फसित 1 crore 35 lakhs
Right.
is
And
in the
you know,
market
you know,
is
way
in
back,
is in the market.
it's the market.
Okay, is in the market. Yeah, and but we left everything and reached. So that is the reason I never went back. Because the
Yes.
house had been destroyed and there was no reason why I should go back. The idea is, when you see, I I of course squarely blame the majority
Community.
people of Kashmir, because they failed to speak for us.
Right.
They always failed to speak for us. They didn't fight for us in any forum. They never condemned these attacks.
Correct.
They never did that. On the contrary, they mocked our plight.
They more.
They
Correct.
mocked our plight. You see,
Absolutely.
I don't know how many Kashmiri Muslims, for that matter, feel some shame and some sadness, and how many genuinely feel that this is wrong. So that's a problem. If everything starts with the truth,
Right.
and if the other party is not ready to accept any amount of truth,
Right.
if the other party is denying whatever they have done, there is no way there can be any kind of reconciliation.
Reconciliation.
That's impossible. So this is what happened in 1990, how I ran away, and then how I did further whatever I did.
Mhm.
That's different. But having said that, there's another background to my story. In 1989, I think, yeah, 1989, my dad's bua, teacher, so Jigarwana, so Nagmi. So her son, I think, is one of the first few Kashmiri Pandits who did IIT. He did BTech, MTech, and PhD in IIT Kharagpur, Kanpur, and he was a professor there in Darbat. she comes to Srinagar because she comes to our house. She is staying in our house.
Right.
At time period, Shaman or something. Her daughter is a doctor, and she would pick her up in the evening. I think she flew on to Lucknow to Srinagar, and she would be picked up by her daughter and taken to Nago.
Right.
The shaman, Shamuk time, 4 बजे time. Yellamson's daughter, Miss Ninya, once my auntie and my sister is with her. So they are saying goodbye, goodbye. And Jigar as usual. The one is now go, one is not a jigger near one. Shkran with Nalma because she was, I think she was out in Lucknow for a few months
Right.
when she came to us. So I loved her a lot. I was very cozy with her most of the times. She was an absolutely brilliant lady. इतनी देर में क्या होता है कि साला बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट
किस जगह
अति हर सिंह स्ट्रीट बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट हुआ सान दरवाजों चौखाट मेरा लकड़ियों चौखाट so that comes out and it hits her head, she falls down and she gets a head injury. Nobody helps her. You know who's the guy? I don't know if you guys know, there was one university president, Ashok Raina. Was a very brilliant guy. He is the guy who picked up Neelkant Ganju also when he was shot.
Oh, I see.
He was the guy who
right.
when Neelkant Ganju was shot, he was the guy who picked it up because nobody came forward to pick up any Kashmiri Hindu at any point of time because they were scared. So this was the tragedy of the affair. Nobody would help. So he picked her up. They tried to get taxi or anything, they didn't. So, but this daughter of her had,
by virtue of narrating this genocidal anecdote, I think I would call it an genocidal anecdote because there is a very serious attempt when you hear the other side. Obviously, the side that is responsible for perpetrating or persecuting us, they definitely they cook up those stories, where
absolutely
you good old
absolutely. I will make you hear what my father had to say. I was talking to my father what happened in I have recorded his saying and you will listen to it.
Right.
I'll make you hear, just give me 5-10 minutes. I'll let you know before we finish so that you realize what was happening, at that point of time in Kashmir.
Oh, definitely. Oh, you mean we can hear him on this live show?
Yeah. No, I have recorded on my phone. I can play the recordings, and it's just for 2-3 minutes. 2 minutes, you can hear it for 2 minutes, and you will see what was happening in villages. What was happening? You see, the basic idea was for them. The basic idea was to throw the businesses owned by Kashmiri Hindus. So they want dismantle it. They wanted to throw them off so that they could usurp it.
Right.
And at the same time, the idea was to throw out all the officials so that they could get elevated to that level. Obviously, if you kill somebody, so obviously this is what happened exactly.
And I think the best quote on this is kill one and scare 10. You just kill one and you terrorize others.
But that's, you see, when you people do not understand the fear psychosis. I'll tell you what happens in villages. It's very unfortunate. People have not seen village life and the 80% of the population lived in villages.
Right.
So in a village where and this is such an unfortunate thing, but even the rest of the people against the Indian diaspora across the globe do not understand it.
They
do not understand that how difficult it must have been for in a hamlet of 1,000, 1,500 families, where 5 families are, or 3 families are Kashmiri Hindus.
and that too
Ho-
scattered.
I mean, how will it look when you kill one? What is going to happen to the all the rest of the three families there who are living there?
And
And
on the contrary, rather than understanding or having the comprehension, now how it
and
is
then
impossible to
and
live
the
with a
on
hostile
and the
people.
only mode of survival for those guys in the villages is what? Is cultivation.
Cultivation, agriculture,
Is
right?
cultivation, agriculture, and orchards,
Absolutely
and some cows. You see, some cows, and they do not have, and they did not have the avenues, and they were not in a way they were not tech savvy, or whatever you can say, to fetch jobs immediately, because they didn't know that at that point of time. So it was really, really bad time. I remember that time very vividly, very, very vividly. And what happened to them when they came to Jammu? It
correct.
was heart wrenching. You know, if I think if a few thousands got killed in Kashmir, but more than that got killed in Jammu, because where would they where were these tents? Purkhu,
Kurku, Mishriwala,
Mishriwala,
Butterwalia, right?
uh, uh, and this and Batalbari in Udhampur,
Udam,
and Muthi, right? So they are the desert areas of Jammu,
barren, right?
barren desert. And remember, even a scorpion in desert, or even a snake in a desert, is much more venomous, much more dangerous than any other snake. In Kashmir, for example, where you have a green vegetation,
Right.
you will not find venomous snakes. They are
Absolutely.
usually non-venomous.
Absolutely.
But deserts have the most venomous snakes. And how many people got killed? I very vividly remember, and Kashmiris unfortunately had no idea about sun, had no idea about the heat stroke and things like that.
Right.
These people started coming out in the sun. They didn't know that, what's happening. And some of them turned cuckoo, they turned mad, and
Mm.
some of them had heat strokes.
Yes.
Many of them, the Jammu streets in 45-degree temperature, you would not find anybody walking except except a Kashmiri,
Kashmiri, yes.
except a Kashmiri, because he had no knowledge what he had to do. And so many people died. So many people died.
Exactly.
So it was an indirect, for them, it was a collateral damage.
And then also, I think, I mean, you are a doctor, so that stress diabetes, that post,
Absolutely, of course, these things happen. This thing is given. Actually, things happen. Stress, diabetes, stress, psychological trauma, psychiatric problems, all these, divorces. We had never heard a divorce when I was in Kashmir. I had never heard a divorce.
right.
Even today, if you look at North America, for that matter,
Mhm.
the Indians have less than 1% of the divorce in the whole of North America, for that matter.
Right. Right. Exactly.
But for Kashmiris, it was unheard.
Unheard.
We had never heard. I had never heard divorce. But then, when we came to Jammu, we started hearing those things, and it came like a surprise.
Right.
So this is very unfortunate. But remember one thing, when people talk about when they do victim shaming, I call it victim shaming. When they do that, they do not realize the valor of the Kashmiri Pandits. Tell me, how many Kashmiri Pandit girls got converted? None. Zero in 1990, despite all these things. And how many people are getting converted in Bharat today? Plenty. I really salute my parents. I really salute our mothers. I really salute my daughters.
for the resilience and
No, they were never moved by that. They were so rooted to the culture. They were
absolutely.
so rooted. And they are actually the what we call them tiger ladies.
They are the
They,
sentinels for the
oh
culture.
yes, 100%. I really salute them. I really salute them. And what a wonderful valor. I mean, who else would you see? Who else? Nobody else. Nobody else. You know, despite everything that happened to Kashmiri Hindus, none of our women got converted. None of our girls ran away with any jihadi. Never. They got subjected to abject poverty, but they never did what
They never did a compromise.
most of the people are doing. So I think
Absolutely.
that's what it is.
I was Sunilji. I was talking to one elderly gentleman yesterday from United States, and he said to me very categorically, "Gopun, buchus na kaise batai wana." I don't consider somebody a Kashmiri Pandit who uses the word migration for 1990.
Absolutely, I think we should do it. We
And
should do that.
he was and secondly, the rights, the Anantnag rights. So I mean, in the last show also, I had Mr. Bhushanji with me, and I highlighted the same point that we should actually refrain from calling it Anantnag rights, because usually in rights, what happens, two parties participate in a right, but in our case, it has always been, the relentless persecution that we have faced, be it the Anantnag
Absolutely.
right. So this again comes back. It should bring our attention back to the point that we have been not only just the victims of genocide, we have not only faced the denial of genocide, but we have also been these victim of these narratives, these false narratives. वहाँ कुछ तो हमारा तो ही the Jagmohan theory. I think this is the biggest nuclear bomb that has been thrown
And
on.
they blame it on center. I can't imagine. I can't imagine when they blame it on the center. The problem is how the hell
Exactly.
how the hell do you blame? And that means there is no truth in it. There is no genuineness in their effort to
And
bring you back. And
absolutely,
the government, at the same time, we have so many Nivedita Menons in our government
no, no,
that unfortunately they are also not. They are also using it as a trump card for
appeasement.
vote bank politics and appeasement, and it continues. It has been continuing. It continues. It continues even today, for that matter. But at least I am really, really thankful to Panun Kashmir and to people who are involved with this movement. At least, and I remember it very well. Surinder Kaul and Ajay Sungu and everybody and Mr. Dr. Agni Shekharji, how they are the pioneers who brought this Panun Kashmir through Vivek Agnihotri, and at least this thing surfaced,
Surfaced.
that as gory as it was,
Mhm,
and at least 1% of what had happened in Kashmir came to light. I'll tell you an incident.
mhm.
One of my relatives, I don't remember the name of the village, her husband was taken by these militants.
Okay.
Her husband was taken by the militants, and when he was taken by the wife did not leave the husband, because that's the kind of culture we have always had. So she ran after him. So they paraded them both, the husband and the wife, through on. They went off on a jeep. They tied them to the rope, both husband
Right.
and wife.
And drag them
They
to the.
tied and dragged them for kilometers
And this is barbaric.
and kilometers and kilometers,
Barbaric.
and they both died. They were my relatives. Okay. So, having said that, I'm gonna tell you now the spine chilling narrative about what happened to this uh, this my dear Jigri.
Yeah,
What
sure.
happened to her? In 1989, I'm talking
By the
about.
way, sorry to interrupt you. Do you know what was her official name?
I
Jigri
think Prabhavati was the most.
Prabhavati. Prabhavati. Yeah.
Prabhavati,
Prabhavati is
Prabhavati.
yes, yes, right, right.
So I think, then I remember it. I was young.
Mhm.
And so Ashok Rana helped us at that point of time. He was a gem of a man, Ashok Rana. So we took her to SMHS. SMHS said, we don't have neurosurgeons, so take her to Sora. So we took her to Sora. I reached Sora. By then, I reached Sora. I remember it very vividly in my mind. Afzal Wani was the neurosurgeon. Okay. So I see him going up the stairs. I follow him going up the stairs. Then he comes down. He used to have his collar used to be high like this.
Okay.
Always he would keep the
Right.
collar, and he had curly hair. I still remember that guy.
The visual memory.
The visual memory I have. And he was going down the stairs. I am following him down the stairs.
Right.
Then I still remember that he pinched Jigri. And when Jigri pinched, so she got agitated. So then he said, she is responding to the painful stimulus. Okay. I remember that also. Then I remember another, then there is some exchange. We are talking about it. I remember it very well. Then I think Raina, ML Raina was the anesthetist.
Right.
This anesthetist, Drusikos is it. Drusikos.
Mhm.
This anesthetist asks him, why don't you operate her? I am ready to give anesthesia.
Why don't you operate? Okay.
Why don't you operate her? He refuses completely. And he says, look, his son-in-law is a doctor. His daughter is a doctor. They're all doctors. They know the implications. And they are giving you a consent death on table. Why don't you operate her? And I'm also standing there. He says, okay, first I should have 5 blood points.
Mhm.
And everybody should be, anybody who gives blood should be less than 18 or something like that. So I was one of them.
Right.
He might bacha young blood. So he needed a young blood for what? I'll tell you the reason. I'll tell you the reason why he asked that also. And then he refuses to operate. And this is very vivid in my memory. I remember this guy with thick mustaches. He pulls him up, man. He holds the collar. And he says yes. This I remember very vividly.
And so he confessed. Yes.
Yes, he says yes.
Oh.
He says yes at that point of time.
This is a very horrible account. Very horrible.
And he doesn't operate. And then we had another very influential doctor in our family who lived in Delhi at that point of time. He calls him. So we had to take his help, who was very influential man. So we took his help. He called him. When he called him, and after 2 days, he operated her. But it was futile to operate her after 2 days. She died anyway. And because the reason is, if he would have operated, because we have an example like that also. If you operate them immediately, usually, then the brain damage is minimum. That's what it says. That's what the literature says. That's how I understand it, because now I become a doctor.
Right.
So and that's what it was supported for generations.
Right.
It's not something which is a newly discovered thing or something which was he simply had to do a subtemporal decompression. He did not do it. And he confessed it.
In the nutshell, he denies because she is a Kashmiri Pandit.
Oh yes, right. This thing happened very vividly, and I remember it.
right.
I remember it very clearly.
And by the by virtue of this I mean genocidal account of Prabhavati which you just narrated,
Mhm.
this is also very important that we understand not only very prominent people, when we talk about the prominent target genocidal killings in Kashmir, be it Pandit Tiklal Taplu Sahab, be it Neelkant Kanju, be it Sarla Bhatt, be it Girja Tikku, but there have been numerous and
There have been plenty people have. That's what I'm telling you. Did
I
you hear
wonder, how
about
many
my
Kashmir files
relatives
are
who got killed in the
away?
village? No,
How many Kashmir
nobody,
files are away?
nobody knows about it because
You know,
you see,
unfiltered.
this has been our problem. Our Indian elite and the Indian elites in West also, they have suffered this problem of siding with the West and the majority.
And a majority.
This has been this is unfortunate, but this is something which is absolutely true.
Yes,
I mean, I do not fathom this. Where they get these ethics. How to how to kill people because uh, in their if
because
you
to a very naive understanding, a doctor has to be a doctor. A patient
no
is a
it does you see
but
because this
hyper religious.
hyper religiosity is overshadows everything else, you see.
Right.
Have you seen them taking procession against Uyghurs in India?
No, they don't.
Have you seen a procession against them in a country like Pakistan or Saudi Arabia? Are they taking money from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia?
That's the
They
hypocrisy.
converted the mosques into urinals. They did not allow them to do Ramadan, made them eat pork. So what did they do? Did they do anything against that? No. But what are they doing? They are doing something like what is happening in Leicester, what is happening in other parts in California.
Right.
And what are they trying to push is the fault line in our system, which is caste system and everything else, which was a British creation, and it was promoted further by the politics of those days and even today.
Sunilji, this reminds me very important point you said. I was reading in a magazine other day. The this was basically the Varna system we have in our great Sanatan Dharma and the caste. The propped up basically what has been actually invested into our minds that basically your religion is casteist, which is it isn't actually. So there was a very good quote somebody said like when in the morning as a Hindu, I get up and I pray to the God. I am very Brahman that time. I go to my work and I am basically, the kayast or, I'm doing that duty. When I'm protecting my family, on a daily, I take care of my home, my security, my other needs. So I become the Kshatri. And then when I go, I flush my washroom, I do all the cleaning and I help in the daily chores, I become the Shudra. So this was basically more of a duty assigned kind of a roles which were again politicized just to demean Hindus and make them, divide them into different sects and caste and all this. And this is very
Well,
important. Other point that you have been highlighting the rise of Hindu phobia here in North
mhm,
America and in
mhm.
different parts of the world. So, Navin Tomara Akshis, and this is by the way very important question because you know I know you personally also. You have been a very fierce voice. You have been always forwarding the cause of Kashmiri Pandits or general Hindu phobia that we face here in Canada or in North America. How important is for the Kashmiri Pandit diaspora, specifically talking, to on the sustenance of that narrative, just when Kathis Karan, that the narrative sustenance of that narrative, the right narrative. And in our case, our narrative is truth, which is 24 karat truth is our narrative. Yamsat is, and I'll take your attention back to the first point. Yamsat is word used for migration. Yamsat is Pane Vano, it was rights, which they were not. We were always victims, they were all were perpetrators. So we were on the receiving end. So how important And how and let me put this question this way: how important is it for the diaspora to help in making our community understand, our youngsters understand that we need to use the right diction, right terminology,
Absolutely.
and right narrative? Because the moment I call it migration, then I think there is
We
nothing.
have diluted it already.
I yes,
We have already diluted it. I think, I think it's a very important thing. This it's a very important. If people, for example, listen to me, what happened to us,
right,
and it's not easy. It's not easy to leave so much of business. We belong to a business class. If you do not feel my pain, just because you did not suffer a lot,
right.
because you see, we have different classes of people in the society.
If I'm not empathetic enough to you, right?
Yeah, so we have, I mean, some of the people who were into the jobs, they came to Delhi, and their salaries continued, or everything. I mean, how bad it is. My father got retired at the age of 36. I mean, not that he could not try businesses in other parts of Bharat. The problem was that, our things, that structure I mean, his social and cultural upcoming was not conducive for
True.
his business in rest of the India. So how bad it is. Somebody who was doing a business of more than a lakh rupees a day is not doing anything.
It's not doing absolutely.
So these are some of the things which we have, not because not
It's
because he could not, because for first 10-15 years he thought that he's going back. So he lived in that, so till he became now 45-50. And then when he started doing something, it didn't work well, and he was not used to something like that, because you see, he was used to big businesses, so he could not sustain that.
right.
He could not. So those are some of the things which some of the people do not understand in my community itself, and and this is a problem. And but the question is, you have to understand it from the point of view of a villager, how he would sustain. I remember very well, when my when other people from villages came to Muthi,
Mhm.
they came with their cows
Yeah,
in
that's
the
right.
truck.
And
They brought many things, they
that's
including cow, because cow was an important part of the family.
mean of survival. Yes,
It was a mean of survival. He was dog diwan. Things changed. They had to sell these cows.
right.
And some of the cows also died. I mean, how bad it is. How bad it, and if we do not understand their pain, if we do not understand their plight, what is happening in Nagrota, what is happening in other places,
Jagti for that matter.
for Jagti for that matter, I mean, we have to have that much of empathy, at least for
Absolutely.
their empathy, at least to have that much of empathy. We need to call it genocide, because this happened not directly to you, but your people.
Correct.
And this happens when you are rooted in dharma, when you are proud of who you are, when you are proud of your parents, you are proud of your ancestry, you are proud of your lineage. This will happen only when you are proud, when you are a proud Hindu.
When we have that sense
You,
of
you
pride,
see, you see this unfortunately,
right?
I have to say this. Hindus over the years, over the centuries, have suffered a huge inferiority complex.
Absolutely.
You see how many people, how many Hindus you will find carrying a tilak and saying proudly that, okay, we are Hindus.
Right.
None. There are very few.
Correct.
The reason is this. You see, that is why
That's
I blame Jawaharlal Nehru, because he was not just any prime minister.
right
He was the bloody first prime minister.
of India.
First prime minister.
Right.
And his job was to take out this inferiority complex
Mhm.
from the Hindus, but not to enslave them.
Right.
It was his job. This was Jawaharlal Nehru's job. He was supposed to get them out of this slave mentality, which he didn't do. He in fact pushed them further into this dark, into these
And
dungeons.
even just to add, some more value to your, this what was the statement you just said. Even because he was a Kashmiri,
Well,
what?
that's doubtful. I strongly doubt that.
Okay.
I strongly doubt whether he was a Kashmiri Pandit or not,
Right.
because Motilal had a lot of issues with him,
Right.
and there are plenty of things. Source and the Indian court or masjid, so we don't know really what exactly he was. So that I really doubt that, man. But what was bad is you see what happened. What happened? You know, go Mirpur massacre. How did he leave? You know, we had for example, Tibet. He left Tibet like that. He left Gilgit Baltistan. He left Aksai Chin. He left. Why? And this was a buffer zone.
This was a buffer.
China would have never been able to do what the way it did in 1962 or anything of that sort.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They would not have been able to do anything because this would have been a buffer area. But what did he leave? He left it naked.
Right.
What did he do with whatever Gilgit, Baltistan, Aksai Chin? You know, he left them just because of that. No, I mean, this is what happens. This is like Rahul Gandhi, who has not, these are the people who do not come from the ground.
They do not come from the, yes, that's right.
Who do not come out of the reality.
Right.
You know, if somebody asks me and somebody asks another Kashmiri guy who has always had a good life, has lived a life, and he doesn't know what happens in the villages. He has always been living in a city, has earned a good momentum in the city, and then he doesn't have any knowledge how village works.
Correct.
And he will not be able to fathom the kind of issues they are facing, or they have faced in getting out of the Kashmir Valley. And what happens in a village when there are two families or three families, they only have one son or two sons. We did not have those exponential growth as well. And when one man is killed or two people are killed, what will happen to that? And they never came to the limelight. I'll tell you one more thing. You know, in 1998, there was a Prankot massacre in Jammu.
Yes.
If you know anything about it, you know, they were all Brahmins there.
Right.
And what happened to them is they were forced to convert, and they were asked to eat beef. You know, 29 of them got beheaded because they refused. But did this ever come into the main media? No.
It was never highlighted. It was always
because there has always been an intellectual dishonesty.
dishonest.
So this is one way of subversion.
Absolutely.
See, how you subvert any nation is through this intellectual subversion, and media is an important pillar. Same thing what Barkhadab did to the narrative building of the majoritarians rather than the victims.
Right.
So,
and when we
they always put the Hindus on the guilt trip and others into this what you call the victimhood.
Victimhood side. And when we talk about this narrative, the war of narratives that we have been talking about from last 1 hour or so, the sloganeering becomes a very important symbol, because SL Namtas Muzois Bosus Varia Lokut, Tondi Kotu Varia Lokut, but I still have that those that feel of that mobs, huge commotions gathering and then shouting on the streets कि कश्मीर में रहना होगा तो अल्लाह अकबर कहना होगा, यहाँ क्या चलेगा निजाम मुस्तफा. So this sloganeering, so this is reflective of the mindset of a brute hostile majority. And I completely don't understand with what face they come on social media, and then they write we were there, oh you left, yeah toy chalupane toy kadno jagmone. I mean,
this is absolute absurdity
and
absolute stupidity.
Right.
This is absolute stupidity. You see, why wouldn't I leave? Tell me one reason.
Mhm.
Five of the people got shot in my area. I did not even wait for my father to reach home and then run away.
Right. You, in
Eh?
fact, yes.
In
What?
fact, we just ran away because I thought that and something. Why was I carrying an ex and staying outside? Because I had a sister and I had a mother.
Absolutely.
Was that the reason? Was it supposed to be like that? I'll tell you another example. Because now you're talking about it.
Sure.
I'll tell you one more example.
Definitely.
The-
And it's
the-
very, very important also. We are
uh,
recording.
this is this
It's
is this is a
life.
guy who happens to be my aunt's relative.
Right.
Okay, he gets shot by probably by bit karate. He is 9 or 10 years old at that point of time, or 11 or 12 years old, whatever
Oh,
age.
you said he got hit by he got shot at by Pita Karate.
I think so. I think
Okay.
so.
And you remember his name?
I do.
Okay.
You want me to say that?
Definitely. Because this is a live testimony right now we are having.
Okay.
Right.
It's Naveen Sapru. His name
Naveen.
was Naveen Sapru. Yeah. So this guy gets shot, and he was simply a bloody telecom engineer, nothing more than that. He was coming home. He gets shot. You know, this guy, the guy who broke on the spreadsheet, I think he gets shot there. He gets felicitated. He
Oh,
is picked up on the shoulders. Shirin Yuan Chakmas.
for
Do
shooting
you
at
imagine this? Do you imagine this? Somebody has killed Hata, you lock it in Morai. Nobody is thinking about this guy,
the victim, right?
the victim who has been killed.
Right.
Nobody. Nobody even does anything for that. And on the other hand, somebody puts a bloody poster
Mhm.
on his chest that any man who goes with this, who goes for the funeral of this man, will meet the same fate.
Oh,
This is the poster which is being pasted on his chest.
horrific.
And nobody does anything to the body. The family doesn't know anything. For hours and hours, they are felicitating. Jalusa, jahan kya chalega, Nizam hai Mustafa. Because you see, the thing is, they were certain by 26 January 1990, they will have it either independent or Pakistan.
Right.
They were certain about this. They were very certain about this. So that's why even the moderate, which you call the moderate element, did not uh, bother to come forward.
Correct.
You
Even the
know,
elites, right.
they they even used to tell some of these Kashmiri Hindus, "Hey, to retwa Azad Kashmir ignored." This and this guy, when he gets killed, you know, he was cremated by only women. One of them was my aunt. My uncle was a bit kind of volatile, so we he wanted to go, but you know we had to lock him. We locked him in the room. We did not let him come out. The reason was because if we were scared that if he goes out, he might also be killed.
Always
So
made the
that Naveen Sapru, after hours, one old Muslim gentleman put Tata Sasan boertat watan pet. Rabi Rud yat bewanos
right.
boris satravantamis butchers pet after many hours because of such a chialai. And he had two kids. And you know, only females went for the cremation.
Oh my,
Only females. There was not a single male.
unprecedented.
There was not a single male who went for the funeral because every mother, sister, wife, they tried to protect
The kids, right.
their kids.
And this is 1990,
This is 1990, 1989.
1989.
And the posters were used to every house. I don't think many. I mean, leave the rich Kashmiri Pandits, but or from what we call them, क्या था एरियाज बना देते बड़े बड़े कशर बट रोजान I don't know.
Haranagar side.
Nah, that areas क्या शुरान
Posh.
something like that. They were never touched,
Never
but rest of the Kashmiri Pandits, everybody has had a poster.
poster. Yeah, labeled outside their doors.
Either you go out or you will be gunned down.
Yes. Leave or get ready to get ready.
Yeah. So tell me how they would not leave. So were those posters posted by Jagmohan?
No.
And I mean, what kind of nonsense is this? Jagmohan was wanting to make a Kashmiri Pandit colonies in one in Srinagar,
Right.
one in Anantnag, and one in Baramulla.
Right.
It was not passed, so he wanted to concentrate Kashmiri Hindus which would have been nice actually. But the government at that point of time did not let it happen. Did not let it happen.
And I think
he wanted to have colonies inside Kashmir itself.
And they did.
On the other hand, they push the narrative like this. I mean, this is so shameful.
And Sunilji, just to add to that, I think even a very mature lay mind would understand that can a single person, Jagmohan, desecrate all those thousands of...
No, that's bullshit, man. That's bullshit. That's absolutely no single man or no. This tests your. I mean, you cannot undermine your intellectual domain like that.
I think that this Jagmohan story in itself is concoction of the century. I think.
I mean, how do people believe in that kind of nonsense?
Absolutely.
How do people believe in that kind of nonsense? I can't fathom that people can be so brain dead or intellectually so deprived that they can't even think rationally.
Look at the honesty of the perpetrator, that he's telling the victim survivor or the genocide survivor on his face that look, you ran away yourself. So this is I mean, this is again, you will never see it anywhere.
You know what they are. Just forget it, man. Just forget it. I know it's very painful, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm just letting you know this is what happened in Naveen Sapru. So any Kashmiri Hindu who would listen to this, who saw this, what's going to happen to him? Obviously, he's going to be disturbed. Now, man, this is where I'm living. These are my people. This is for who I have to live.
Obviously.
There's no ethical standing,
right,
in the perpetrator, because no human can do what these people did to another human. No humans.
This is not a human living.
No human can do what they did. Right. And because I have seen these things, and many of the guys have not seen these things or have not gone through it, does not mean that it didn't exist.
It didn't exist, exactly.
Does not mean that it didn't exist. If it didn't happen with you, but it has happened with me, does it mean that it didn't exist?
Right.
No, it happened. And it happened very clearly right in front of me. And I'm telling you this, and you, instead of believing in me, you believe in somebody else.
So when they had been calling Kashmir file a propaganda, so this was just an extension of same mindset,
Absolutely.
They kill somebody and then they deny. They want to wash their hands off.
See, the problem is secular Kashmiri Pandit has always been a useful idiot. Very useful idiot who was unable to understand the nature of radicalization.
Right.
He was unable to understand at every point of time. He never understood what. And you see, there is no moderate perpetrator or moderate jihadi for that matter. There's this figment of secular KP's imagination that these are some of them are moderates. It doesn't exist.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
So what very categorically, the way you have highlighted this is that, the coexistence, which first of all never existed in the first place, it was categorically, rejected by the brute majority community of Kashmir. And then on the contrary, the victim shaming makes it,
Yeah,
it's like, that we call in English, adding salt to the wounds of the victims. Sunilji, I want to know from you, how important is it, if we talk of the contemporary times, and you must have definitely heard that recently we had a 300-day long agitation in
I don't. I know. I know
in
that.
and as on date, when you and I, we are, talking right now,
Mhm.
we still have the same genocidal environment in Kashmir, and our boys and girls, our sisters and brothers who are still
Mhm.
serving there,
Mhm.
they are having that sense of threat, that terror, and I can be the next kind of a feeling, and that what we have been as a Panun Kashmir calling that, Kashmiri Pandits are still being, treated as hostages in Kashmir. So I want to take your attention from, we discussed Nehru's policy on Kashmiri Pandits or Kashmir, to be specific. What is your take on, the current dispensation we have at the center? What is the Modi's? How do you see the Modi's policy when it's specifically on Kashmiri Pandits?
What do you want to tell me, man? This is a B team of Congress. What do you want to tell me? What are you implying at? This is a B team.
Because let
You
me be
know,
very,
you know
be very blunt with
how.
here, but there is a general perception in the community that Prime Minister Modi's policy on Kashmiri Pandit has been a failure till date. Do you subscribe to that?
100%. Because for me, I mean, this appeasement policy, you see, there are a lot of good things. I do not deny that Modi ji has been the ray of hope
Right. For the rest
and
of
for the rest of the nation. And
the
definitely, he has done huge service to the nation.
right.
I don't disagree with that.
Correct. I think
But
nobody disagrees to that point.
but the amount of appeasement, this when there is no comprehension in the
Correct.
brain, when you do not have that wisdom of comprehension, what is the fact, and when until and unless you do not call a spade, it's
Right.
not possible.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. You have to have, the other party, the perpetrator in Kashmir, is not ready to accept the truth.
He's not ready. Yes, that's right.
And when he is not ready to accept the truth, and you are also not uh, telling them the truth, then
Absolutely
how is it going to happen? So there's no way we can head forward.
correct.
We can move forward, because if the truth is not accepted as it is,
Right.
then you're unable to go anywhere beyond it. So
Absolutely.
I think, you see, this is something which is very important. Nobody, no, even nobody in the politics speaks our stories. They only use it to glamour their party,
Galvanize the masses.
galvanize the vote bank.
Vote
This
banks.
is this is what has been happening for 33 years. Otherwise, if you call these fighters of justice, they have failed us for all these years, for 33 years. This is my fight. This is your fight, Himalay. This
Absolutely.
is our fight.
It's the fight of every Kashmiri.
So we have to fight it out. We have to fight it out wherever.
Because,
It's not possible.
if
It's
you
not possible if we continue to live in this slumber that somebody else is going to fight for me. It's not going to happen. It's not
Panun,
going to happen.
like this again, it's very important to highlight here that Panun Kashmir from last 33 years now, I should say,
Absolutely,
has been
absolutely.
telling this very categorically to the state of India that please call it jihad in Kashmir. Don't call it, law and order situation. Don't call
No,
it
it was never.
terrorism.
Did you
You know,
not listen to what this governor said on 300 years, 300 days of detention of these Kashmiri Hindus? What did he say? That militancy has what? What did he say? It's no
he-
religion, whereas
yes,
it's
yes,
clearly the religion.
right. That's right.
So I mean, if you do not call spade a spade, this is going to happen.
Right.
This is bound to happen. I think there's a huge intellectual bankruptcy in our academia and in our media as well. We
But
are
I think you again, pointed out a very important point, that there was a time that as a community we would think that probably status is area comprehension. They don't understand what has happened in Kashmir. Is it jihad? What
No, they
happened
don't.
to Pandits? Is it
Even
genocide?
even today, thanks to Panun Kashmir, at least for bringing that the Kashmir files, at least something has come to the head, but it still has not galvanized votes. They can talk any amount of nonsense now on part of it. They can say that no, it was not this, it was not this. They even now try to say that Abhinav Gupta was not from Kashmir. Abhinav Gupta came
Right.
from
All that.
all those things. Because
Or,
this
or
is this is this is
I don't know.
something.
I don't know if you have heard that. Even the renaming of our historical, our ancestors like Laldet, they would call
Yeah.
Lala Arifa, Nundrishi, Nuruddin Nurani, or probably Shankaracharya is Suleiman Takht, Suleiman Teng, and a hell lot
Yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah.
So that conversion spree is still on, and I think as you said, unless the state doesn't call a spade, we
Yeah,
are going to reach nowhere. Because if what is happening in Kashmir is not jihad, and what has happened to Kashmiri Pandits is not genocide, then I think we stand nowhere.
of course.
Because I was also talking to somebody other day, and I said, let us not call it Anantnag riots, let us call a brunt of jihad, or a brunt of genocide, a wave of genocide,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I
this
think I
thing.
think you're absolutely right, because I'll tell you about this Anantnag issue. Because I'm quite associated with that area and quite linked, because I spent my childhood in that area,
Right.
because my matamal was there. So I spent a lot of time there. Uh, my mother says like this, that in Anantnag Khanbalas, when it happened,
Right.
I said, Hassan, if I don't know if you know about it, I don't know how many people know about it. That was a Bud Sunduk. That Sundukas was Tomulasan, Yausasan, Dani.
Ah,
In every village house, it used to be there.
right.
Yimo Thaibi Koeri Tatmas Band. Some of them even sewed the big guinea bags. Tatmas Thaibi Koeri.
Oh my God.
You shouldn't kaisi pata. Nobody knows about it, but I'm telling you, this is what happened in Anantnag. And when army convoy Chiwan, Khanabalki, Chanayiwan.
Right.
I don't know if you have been there. You
I,
haven't been there.
I'm not.
Army convoy was Khanbalki Niwan, one po Khanbalki. Taden tre but ladko tre pan buch at army convoy. As bache to itan wo to asid ke to askar to madat itan.
Oh,
Timokor they fought. They
right.
fought. But nobody came forward. They said, "Hamare haath bande hue hain, hum nahi aa sakte." This is
Yeah.
what military said at that point of time, because they really wanted to help, but they couldn't. They were not given orders.
Such was the
Such
direction
gory
of the.
details. Nobody knows. And still, you tell me that, that there are moderates and non moderates, and
That kind of
that kind of a narrative. This is what we call, I call it a secular apartheid, this ostrich syndrome.
right.
I belong to Africa, so this is what I call, like an ostrich, you put your head down into the sand, you think the predator has gone. There's a very strange phenomena with Indians. They believe in that sleeping with the predator probably will save me.
Right.
Where on earth, man? Where on earth do you think that that if you become friends to any kind of problem, then that will be the cure of the problem?
That would be the
Where?
exactly nowhere.
That it will never happen. It doesn't happen anywhere on the globe, but it happens with us.
Right.
It's a very peculiar kind of thing which we
Yeah.
have gained.
Sunilji, I am short of running short of time.
Yeah,
So
thank you very much.
at the end of this segment, I mean this every show, we always have a question answer session. So I have just taken two questions today.
Yeah.
And one question, Rajesh Ranaji Jempet, he has sent a question for you. So his question is very simple and very short. He wants to know from you, how important is it for diaspora to strengthen the voice of Panun Kashmir?
It's very important. I think the most important thing is that if we, because this is the only solution. This is the only solution to save Kashmiri Hindus, to save our culture, to save our Shaivism, to save our Trika Shaivism, or whatever you call it. This is the only way to save it. This is the only way to have this culture, and this is the only way that we can nourish our culture. Otherwise, we are gone. This is the only way we can be proud of who we are. This is the only way you can be proud of your father and grandfather and your ancestry
Your legacy, right?
and your great grand. This is the lineage you will be proud of. This is the. I mean, you have to be proud. They have sacrificed so much. If you listen to Umendra Ratno, Dr. Umendra Ratno is the guy who fights for the Hindu minorities in Pakistan who are suffering a huge conversion and problems there. So he brought some Hindu families, because of CA, and then they had to go back. And one of the families, I remember it, he says, why don't you bloody convert, man? You know what he said? He says, पुरखों की वरासत है सर, पुरखों की मेरे पास वरासत है,
वाह,
मैं ऐसे छोड़ दूं, इतनी बड़ी वरासत मैं वैसे छोड़ दूं.
Well said.
This was a Pakistani Hindu guy. He said, like, पुरखों की वरासत है मेरे पास, और उनको ऐसे छोड़ दूं, उनको ऐसे ही दूं, ऐसे छोड़ दूं, ऐसे ही convert हो जाऊं. I mean, can you understand? This is what I want to let people know, Rajeshji. Everybody has to be proud of his lineage, proud of his people, proud of his ancestry, proud of these things. And if you have to do this, then Panun Kashmir, to me, is the solution. We need to have our own land and in Kashmir. Yes, that's only. Because if you think there are moderate, they're not even moderate to their women, man. How can they be moderate to you, man?
To you, absolutely.
I mean, something has to come out of this.
Absolutely. And
you cannot go again and again through genocides and genocides, one genocide, then again another genocide, and then we keep on running away. We have to give it an end.
Absolutely. Rightly said. So the last question is from Anil, I think Anil Kachruji, and he is from Jagti. He says, I want to know from you, what are the very recent, the social or cultural initiatives the diaspora there has been taking, for, the survival of the Kashmiri language, culture, so that it does not get extinct in the coming generations who are, born and brought up outside of India.
Look, I can tell you one thing very proudly. I have a daughter, and she speaks Kashmiri.
Beautiful.
She understands Kashmiri. She talks in Kashmiri. We in home talk Kashmiri. We are very proud Kashmiri Pandits, and I do not mince my words at any point of time. I am a proud Hindu, and my daughter is equally a proud Hindu.
Proud. We are all proud Hindu, right?
So of course, we all speak Kashmiri. You'll be surprised, Rajesh. You'll be surprised. Previously, when I remember, we had a family who was not speaking. They had brought their children as a non-speaking Kashmiris.
Right.
But when they saw my daughter,
they got
they got instigated. They forced. And I'm telling you, I was shocked.
Right.
And one of the guy who came up as an English-speaking boy, I saw him few days back. I think few months back. He speaks chaste Kashmiri. Absolutely, because the father made the point that no, my son must also speak Kashmiri. So I think that's important. So we are maintaining that thing. Thank you, sir. Thank you for reminding me. But
I was,
yes,
I was, I was, I was just on a lighter note. I was talking to Sunil Sopori ji. So he said, युथे ये दरवाजे अंदर बूट छु काडुन तो अंदर अचुन इच कशर पट कात करें युथे नेबर छु करन तथे कि तो अंग्रेजी पट कात करे.
absolutely,
That
absolutely.
is a very good policy we should actually be looking at. So it was a pleasure to host you, Dr.
Thank you,
Sunil,
sir.
and it is
Thank you very
always,
much.
and thank you so much for telling us so many horrific accounts, and this interaction in itself has become a very testimonial in its very own nature. And I look forward you to inviting in future panel discussions and other debates we are going to have here on this platform. Thank you once again so much
Thank
for
you, Bharat. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you. Thank you. Jai Shri.
Jai Shri Ram, Jai Panun Kashmir. Bedi hu ijazat, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Homeland podcast. Jai Panun Kashmir.
Jai Shri. Thank you. Thank you.